everybody, welcome to my channel for a new battle report. This was a practice game that I played shortly after WTC. I had a tournament scheduled for the last weekend of April, and I planned to take ID, but unfortunately on one hand I wasn't able to find a list that convinced me fully, and on the other hand I didn't manage to paint everything I needed to paint for the tournament, so I didn't want to go to a tournament and start with penalties for lack of painting, and also do battle report with unpainted armies isn't something that I like a lot. So yeah, basically this was just a single practice game, but nothing particular for a tournament, since I won't be bringing ID to my next tournament. But still, it was an interesting game to play and a way to try out a list that I wanted to try. So my list is the following. You find as a general my beloved Prophet of Shamut on Great Bull of Shamut. Then I have the Adept on Kadim Chariot, Commissioner BSB. With Onyx Core, we have in Core, I wanted to try out the following setup: 23 Citadel Guard with Flintlock. I thought between the fact that there are 23, you can play a little bit on Infernal Brand to be steadfast, since you double the rank when to get charged, and 23 is a bit more shot than only 15. So yeah, on average you can rely on them to be able to clean chaff and stuff like that a bit more than 15 guys. So that's something that I liked. I have a unit of Vassal Levies with Bows and Relentless Company, 2 units of Shackled Slave, basically to have some pools, health point pools to use as sacrifice for Occultism on one hand, and on the other hand it's some additional drops. I figured out that sometimes it's an issue for ID, since I have not a lot of free drops in the list. Most of them are very relevant, and you cannot then rearrange your deployment because of lack of lateral movement. I like to have sometimes a couple of drops that are less relevant and that you can start to put before deploying anything else that is more relevant in the list. Then I wanted to try out the full anointed, so 5 great weapon, 3 great weapon with champion, and 3 of them paired weapon with discipline banner to be a kind of an independent scoring unit, and obviously something to hide my bull behind if needed, which is Citizen Giant with Tower Shield and Big Brother. Why did I pick Tower Shield? I wanted to have no big sensitivity to cannon, so basically he's in soft cover, and then I can put him behind and make sure that he has no +1 to hit against gigantic target. And Big Brother just make the base a bit bigger and easier to hide for the Great Bull of Shamut if needed. My opponent was trying out Frederick WTC lists, which I found interesting. Basically it's a list, it's typically from Frederick, which is a rush list, aggressive list, without, in this case, without magic at all. So you have 4 officer on a flying mount, basically 2 Manticore and 2 Pegasus. Then he had 3 scoring units in core, which are auxiliaries, bringing a couple of shots to the list, 8 Shadow Riders to finish up the core section, 3 Gorgon that are really good. I think we see them in almost every list. They are so good for what you pay for them. 3 units of Thunderpark that are very mobile and flexible unit, and 2 units of Acolyte that can be additional chaff if needed, or also a possible combat threat. We played Secure Target on Counter Trust, and my opponent asked me if I could start the game. He wanted to see how the battle evolves in case it doesn't start, just to see, because what he mentioned to me with this list, Dread Elf list, there are basically a game when you start and a game where you don't start. So he wanted to try that out for the tournament. I didn't pick exactly this spell, that was my original idea, but I think I picked instead of Quicksilver Lash, because the Pegasus that are sensitive to Quicksilver Lash can go in unit, and then I figured out it's not the best choice. I picked Silver Spike and Hereditary, and for the Occultist guy I went with Toxic Breath and Ward Save, and then I pick Rot Within instead of Gravecold, because I figured out it can be hard to be within 12 without being chargeable by a lot of stuff, and obviously Mark for Doom. So a good mix between 3 very good range damage against his army and 3 buffs basically, and he has no magic at all. Matchup analysis. He has a very aggressive list. He will want to start. So that was the analysis that I wrote before the game, obviously. I was ready to minimize and reduce the zone that he can attack if he was going to start. And obviously for me to start in this game is always good because you can start to apply range damage. And he will be forced to try to minimize a little bit what I can do with that. Yeah, 4 flying character, basically I need to deal with them as soon as possible with range damage. I think when you see both lists, you realize quickly that the key in this battle for me is to be able to reduce the amount of threats with magic and shooting to one extent. And if I don't manage to do that, I could be in trouble because he has more resources than me, and if he managed to kill some of the smaller unit on the flanks, then he could be in a position to overwhelm me and get into combo charge where I could really struggle to answer. My estimation of the matchup was slightly positive, especially since I was going to start. I figured out I have the perfect range damage to put him in danger and kill some of his character, and then after in close combat, as long as he doesn't get good combo charges, I should be fine with my big unit that can hold to most of his stuff. And also my character in a 1-1 challenge should be fine against most of these guys except the general who has a flaming ward save. Deployment. So I was able to start, like I told you. He picked the top side. I put a slave unit, then he puts a light cav on the left here to also same strategy, just push me back. Yeah, replace second target, I put mine on the right, he put his on the left. Basically using Impassable to make hard for both of us to get them. Basically, since he was going to rush at me, I decided to put some distance between both of them. I didn't have any good spot to put it on the left and then the right. I decided it would be harder for him to get if I put it on the far right, and I think it was the right call. So yeah, I was telling you regarding deployment, I think my first 3 drop were like slaves, something on the right, maybe Torque or maybe Citadel Guard, don't remember, to push him further back on the secondary, and then like the vassal or second unit of slaves, I think vassals. And what he put as 3 first drop were, I think, yeah, light cav definitely, these guys definitely, and maybe a thunder pack unit. And then I decided, so it's always the same in this type of matchup when you check both lists. What I wanted to do is to have a strong enough right flank to secure as soon as possible the secondary objective and then form a solid battle line and basically get rid of the couple of things on the right side and make sure that after my deployment it doesn't want to drop in front of me because it's just too risky considering the amount of points that I have on this part of the map. And then still be able to slow him down on the weak flank with some elements and still have a chance to go for the secondary objective. And also the idea behind magic was I checked that I could put the chariot on the hill, so even if he minimized, I would have a silver spike line of sight and the ball in the middle to be sure I have line of sight and I can go where I want. So to make hard for him to minimize what I might do with magic basically. And what he did is to, yeah, it didn't fall in the trap to go frontal, especially since I was going to start. He minimized a bit what I might do with shooting and magic and went with a strong left flank by putting all 4 of his character on the left flank plus a Thunderpack and Medusa. And then on his weak flank, he just put secondary objective 2 Thunderpack that can easily redeploy as well as a Conjure Warlock unit basically. And yeah, he also put Pegasus inside the unit to avoid me getting, for example, a Toxic Breath that could focus one of these Pegasus that are very sensitive to it. My turn 1. So as you can see, I use a lot of tools of Warhall because what's very hard to face this list, and I agree with my opponent when he told me there is too much against this list, is the first time you play against it and the second time, because if you don't know exactly what everything does, and it's kind of hard to track all the possibilities that he brings to the table. I focus myself on the hard hitting unit, basically the 4 flying character and the Thunderpack and Gorgon, what he might do. And I didn't check too much what he might do as well with his shooting, and that could be a problem in regards to Great Bull getting shot by a lot of auxiliaries. What I did is just check his line of sight, make sure he cannot escape, and that I would cover most of his stuff. I checked the Giant cannot come here behind the Impassable, which is an issue because of his base. Should have checked that before and deploy him elsewhere, I guess. I decided to march 14 and still get 18-inch range to be able to blast some of these guys with Toxic Breath, basically. put him within 12 of the Great Bull. What I didn't notice at the time is how fast these guys can charge. I check on paper, it's written movement 8, but then they have +1 with Academy, gets to movement 9, and then with Scent of Blood even fly 10, which is just crazy fast. These guys didn't move much, the Great Bull as well, wanted to get some good range in magic, but I didn't, like I said, I didn't check that he could target me with a lot of shooting, and the rest just I push on the right to make sure he cannot escape the line of sight, but I still get some breathing space, so to say. Magic, I get Mark for Doom off on the 1-up rollable Pegasus. That might be an issue in combat because I don't have a lot of AP on this left flank. But I roll a 1 to wound, unfortunately, and then I fail Silver Spike. So not a great first turn. His first turn, yeah, he does what his list does very well. Basically, he moves around to focus, to have like an alpha strike effect on a short part of the map. So he moves everybody to get rid as soon as possible with these 2 threats, and then he can eat some stuff and comes toward the harder part of my list. He moves away everything that is in front of me on this right flank, basically, and uses the first Warlock unit to chaff my giant, make sure I cannot charge him, and if I do charge him to get rid of them, then he could just combo charge me and get rid of the giant easily. And forces me also to take a march check, non-rollable because my BSB is on the far right, which might be an issue. He also took a charge. That's where I realized that he's so fast. He failed the charge on the 9 or 10 Swift Stride against the giant. Luckily for me, that would have been the first issue for me in case he would have succeeded in this charge. So I didn't realize that he was so fast. My turn 2, I failed the march check on the left, unfortunately, which means that the giant is already lost because I had no way with movement 7 to escape and avoid any dangerous charge. So I just decided to put him on the left and minimize the amount of unit that could charge me. He could go with Pegasus and Medusa. Maybe I have a small chance to hold him and delay a little bit this unit coming towards the rest of my line. Other than that, I backed as much as I could with the Toric. I didn't suffer any wounds from all these shots, but I passed a couple of armor save, I think like 2 or 3, or ward save. So I was lucky enough to not suffer any wound, but I could have already, and I decided to back my bull to basically still get range for magic, but not take too many risks against his shooting. The rest just backed off, and I positioned them forward on the hill to threaten more things, especially his less mobile unit. But it's definitely hard for me to catch unit that can move 10 to the back or also a lot to the side like they want. It's very hard for ID to do that. And I decided to just basically respect them, what they might do against me. I think what I should have done instead is reform 1 wide and push 7 forward to make sure I can next turn maybe get charged against this unit. I just respected a lot this unit, but I think I could have still stayed quite far away for him to charge me and at the same time get an opportunity to charge him. I think here that wasn't the right choice for me. This was a bit too conservative. Magic Face, I fail Breast Weapon, he dispel Mark for Doom. Silver Spike does 2 wounds to the 1-up roller Pegasus, which is a good start, and then I fail Wrath Within. With shooting I kill 3 of I don't remember, I think with the Vassal I killed 3 of the auxiliaries. His turn 2, I don't have picture, but basically took several charges. These 2 on the left where I decided to hold, and then he took too many charges against these units that at some point I had to flee. I think he charged with the Warlock, 2 flying character at least, and some Warlock to the flank, and I had a huge risk that if one of these 3 relative long charges get on, that I could then get an overrun against the Great Bull and then basically get stuck, and then he can bring forces and get me and kill me. So I just had to flee at some point, which is a bad news because basically I've lost 2 precious resources and he hasn't yet, which is a bit of an issue for me. What else? With shooting he did 3 wounds to the bull, so basically decided to march with these guys, lost a couple of them in the ruins, but got a lot of shots and did 3 wounds to my bull, which is already a lot. Close combat, I focused my attack on the Pegasus, did 2 wounds to him, so he's still alive. I failed my steadfast, or I wasn't steadfast against Medusa, I guess. No, I wasn't steadfast, so he just broke me and run me down. And then I think he redirect 1 charge with them against the slave, but I was steadfast and I passed the steadfast check. My turn 3, so it's already looking bad, because basically it's going to be a draw on secondary, and I'm already lost a lot of points and precious resources. So what I did is bring out my BSB to have an additional menace on this part of the map, bring back the Great Bull. I was happy to pass my check to fly out off line of sight of stuff and be ready to cast a Toxic Breath to try to finish him off, or Mark for Doom as well. Reposition other stuff. I try to move here, but then as well I realized that this formation is not the best one because I cannot fit and charge him. I should have been again one wide, push more, so this is again a mistake. And here I moved 3 forward and I'm able to shoot him. I think this was maybe a small mistake on his part. He could have been outside of 18 to avoid all these shots. In my magic phase, I got breast weapon and kill the Pegasus, which is nice. Silver Spike, I rolled 444 on his general. He dispelled Mark for Doom, and then Silver Spike, I rolled 444. I lose the spell, and I didn't wound him. So this is a huge loss for the rest of the game. He was quite happy about that. Here I'm steadfast again, so we stick, and that's his turn 3. He charged with the general. I think, yeah, that's the BSB, that's general. Charge the general against slave, reposition this Pegasus with 1 wound remaining to my flank. Pushes with the Gorgon. It debated a little bit, should he take the long charge to my flank to try to get then a medium overrun onto the Great Bull. But definitely if he failed charge, he would end up stuck against Impassable, and then it's basically more or less the end of the game for them. So I think that was the wise choice to push forward instead. Reposition 3 strong units to the top to basically threaten me and chaff me at 2 places. He chaffed the BSB with Warlock and then decided to chaff my guys here with his light cavalry. I think it was a good move from him to be able to push on the top of the map. So he's bringing, as you can see, a solid battle line with all his strengths coming at me, and I don't have so many things left. I have 2 Torque units, my Flintlock unit that is not so fighty, and then my 3 character basically, and the rest is just garbage. So yeah, this is not looking good. What else? Yeah, this was 8 Swift Stride, so he got that charge off. He killed 4 of my 3-up armor safe Citadel Guard with auxiliary shot, which was a shock for me. And then here I was still steadfast. I had just 5 or 6 guys remaining. He reformed in a way that the Great Bull, basically I couldn't charge him. And if I charge the Acolyte, then I will still suffer from the fact that he will do combat resolution against me, and then he has so many counter charge set up that it's not a good deal for a 3 wound remaining Great Bull, basically. My turn. Decided to try to get rid of the chaff still. Reposition the BSB in the unit to be stubborn in case he wants to charge me. Reposition my flint. I didn't move my flintlock to shoot at full strength against some Thunderpack, and reposition them to be counter charger. So basically I have 2 counter charge set up. This one is unchaffable for him, just to make very hard for him to engage the flintlock. I backed off with the Great Bull from the shooting because he continued to march and shoot me, which puts me in danger to die at some point. And then the rest, I debated whether or not I should chaff him, but I figured out I have some good flee paths here. If in case he charges me, I can flee and then rally safely. Chaff now to then not take advantage from that and still give him overrun to move forward. I didn't feel that to be a good choice. My magic phase, a breast weapon. I kill, I think, these guys. Kill 4 of them. I think I was lucky here. Mark for Doom, I killed the Pegasus with 1 wound remaining, so that's a good news. I reduce a little bit his amount of threat and chaff. He dispelled Hereditary on Thunderpack to avoid me getting reroll to wound on shooting. I failed Rot Within. Citadel Guard did 5 wounds to Thunderpack, which was nice. Yeah, hit on 4-up is really good. I already did wounds before, so he has only 1 guy with 2 wounds remaining, which is nice. Chariot did a lot of wounds. He broke. I decided to restrain. Was it the right choice? I'm not sure. I felt in case he charged me, I have some good flee pass. But he has so many options, it's hard to check everything he might do. And I get caught off guard. I think I didn't. Yeah, these guys were able to charge me then in the back. I felt I need to look forward to have another counter charge, but I think this wasn't necessary and was a bad idea to give my back to this Warlock that charged me in the back to stick me, basically stick me in place or try to break me and run me down, and maybe even chaff these guys doing the same process. So I think that was a bad idea. I couldn't flee because I would be chaffing myself, and then it could easily take advantage from that. So I didn't like that much. So yeah, it was a bit an issue with the chariot, and I decided to stick. He charged to my slave, I fled, then redirect onto the vassals. I didn't felt it was safe enough to flee because he could easily catch me, and then it's hard for me to engage against a 3-up ward save general against fire. Basically I decided to stick and reposition the BSB to be in my flank. So yeah, it's getting hard because I cannot catch anything with my unit. He can just move around and strike what he wants. He kills one Citadel Guard in shooting. Close combat, I passed a 6 rerollable on the chariot, so I did like 1, he did nothing to me, but I had a charge in the back, I think. Or maybe I did nothing. But basically we stuck, I think he did 1 wound, I did 1. But basically I stuck on 6 rerollable. It's good because I don't know if it's good or not. It saves the chariot, but I failed to reform, and it's still a problem to be in the middle, creating a kind of traffic jam. Not sure it's so good for me to stick or not. Turn 5, reposition the bull. Reposition, yeah, the BSB, just make sure I'm still within 12. On average, I should be able to be steadfast another round and then pin in place his general, which is not bad. Here we're still stuck in combat. I check how he could charge me, what are the possible overrun and stuff. Reposition the flintlock to shoot at the light cav to avoid the chaff. Reform them to threaten the flank. And then still be sure that I can swift reform and go back for the secondary. I don't think it was the right idea, but I should have done that turn 2, not turn 5. Magic, I get +1 ward save on the chariot. Hereditary on his BSB. Citadel Guard kill only 1 cavalry, which is nothing. And then the vassal are still steadfast and passed, and they 8 rerollable. And here I kill 2, 1 remaining, we stick. He charged my chariot in the flank, so I have a 3-up ward save, so maybe I can stick. And I reform yet to the front. He charged with his BSB to my Citadel Guard and reposition the Thunder Pack to try to charge turn 6 and position them to charge my flank on turn 6, basically, to try to break my steadfast, which is well done from him. And I'm not in a position to do anything to really stop that, since I will need them to score secondary. I'm going to pray that he doesn't succeed in this long charge. I think it's 8 on 2 dice. So yeah. What happened is shooting. Yeah, stand and shoot. I did 2 wounds to the BSB, which was a good start from the flintlock. And then close combat, he just one-shot the 3-up ward save with 3 wound remaining chariot and overrun to my Troika Anointed. And here I gave him the champion and reform after passing the steadfast check. My last turn, I didn't feel the bull could get any charge. I have only 3 wounds remaining. Go into that charge with a ward save fire guy is not a good idea. I decided just to move away and do some magic and save the point of this guy. Here we're stuck in combat. Here I decided to charge him to see if he stick or not. Maybe I can get some points, and if he decides to flee I could have charged to the flank, but he decided to stick for that particular reason. Reposition them to score this secondary objective, and here we're stuck in combat. Basically my plan here is to stick this combat on stubborn, then just reform slightly wider to make sure these guys cannot fit in between to charge them, and then basically it's an impossible charge for them or them. So the flintlock, in case it doesn't succeed the charge to my flank, I can even reform looking upwards basically, and in case he doesn't succeed to that charge, I should be fine with the flintlock. No, I couldn't reform because 4 guys in base contact. Yeah, 4 guys, yeah, I could possibly, no, because he will kill too much and then I couldn't. But anyway, I have just to pray that he doesn't succeed in that charge, because if not I will lose the flintlock and possibly the game. Magic phase, I get the breast weapon, did nothing on him, and then close combat, disaster happened. So first I lose this combat, I didn't kill him and he just killed too many and we stuck. Here I did nothing to him because I'm only AP1 and I stuck. And then this close combat, I fail 9 rollables, stubborn check, and he runs me down. So yeah, happens. To be honest, I've taken a lot of leadership check this game, so it's not a big surprise that I fail one of these. Obviously, it's the point in the game where it hurts a lot, because we were still quite close on the score sheet, and this gives him a huge advantage. And his turn 6, I don't have anything left. He attempted long charge against them with Medusa, but failed, luckily. If not, he would have basically started from here to end up here. It would have been very funny. And here, basically, we'll fail that charge, but since I cannot block anymore these charges because the Torek are not here anymore, he can just charge with all Thunder Pack against them, and between all of that, he just finished me off. I'm not steadfast anymore, run me. He just, I think, one-shot me, basically. So I lost this unit as well. So at the end of the game, I only have Great Bull and Anointed remaining, and the rest he killed or run down. So it was a 15-5. And in case I would have stuck on unrerollable, we checked out what would have been the point. It depends a little bit if he managed to take half point of one of these or both units, but most likely between a 9 or 8, so would have been closer to a draw. But still, I think I made way too many mistakes in this game. I talked about them a lot during the battle report already, but let's try to sum up the most important of them. So he started from far away. I asked myself at the beginning, well, is it too far away from me? It could take time for him to come towards me, but I think it was the right advantage, because he avoided the frontal clash, which is a smart idea against Infernal Dwarves, and then decided to engage against smaller units, get rid of them, take an advantage of the number of resources, even bigger than it was at the beginning, and basically then establish a situation where he could threaten me from multiple angles, and it gets very hard for me to react. I definitely missed the fact that he could get a movement 10 fly with the flying monsters. That's crazy good. I mean, that's crazy good. I lost too quickly 2 important resources, mainly due to misplayed deployment, which gave me the edge, gave him the edge. The fact that I lose more than 500 points and 2 important combat threats is huge, very early in the game. A Great Bull way too exposed to range damage. I think I finished with like 2 wounds remaining, so close to death. Definitely I misjudged or underestimated this threat, but it's hard to keep track of everything in this list. Gorgon MVP, yeah. Every time I face Gorgon, every time I think they are so good. I mean, they are so good. Regarding the list, I think I should have picked more blast in the spell selection. Definitely Quicksilver Lash could have still been more interesting. I don't think Gravecall would have changed a lot, because it's hard to be within 12, but maybe, I don't know, it's my main answer, all this range damage, so maybe that would have been an additional option at some point, but definitely at least Quicksilver Lash. Not convinced by the Flintlock in close combat. Yeah, they had a hard combat and I wasn't able to support them, but what I wanted from them was also a unit that was able to do something in combat on their own, and they didn't manage to do anything on this BSB in combat because basically of AP1. So I don't think that's the right tool for what I wanted from this unit. I don't think that it's the right answer to what I wanted from my core section in regard to complementing the rest of the list. And yeah, my core setup you saw in the middle of the board, it was a bit of a traffic jam. I didn't manage to do anything interesting with this smaller unit, didn't manage to chaff anything as well. So yeah, I didn't feel the core setup was the best for the rest of the list basically. Deployment, what I could have done better, I guess. I'm not sure it's the perfect answer, but definitely a bit better at least. Could have, so keep the slave here to push him back, maybe the slave slightly more to the left to push him back on the zone, the middle-ish zone to push him even further back, maybe, but that's a detail. But then maybe have a stronger right flank, less exposed, put the vassal on the far right to basically move forward, shoot some bows against them. They have higher shooting range, so they force them to really move far away, and then just they stay here to secure this secondary while shooting from 24 inch, which is nice. Put the giant here to be able to move forward and then try to bait him to charge me with Thunderpack, try to find minimization spot and stuff like that. Keep the citadel, but in a position where they could go on the hill and shoot from the hill as well. The Great Bull, I don't know, I think here it's way too much to the right. Maybe keep him like central position with the possibility to turn one, fly partially behind the hill to get some hard cover, but still be in range against his bigger target. So I think the position to be central on the deployment is not a bad idea, but maybe in a position to get some cover at some quite early in the game if needed. Use my Stubborn Anointed to close the diagonal, so to say, and put the Great Weapon guy as a support unit. They are strong in the matchup, so use the strong pieces to basically close down his ability to push toward the south part of the map. And then on the far left, I still think it's good to keep at least something, not too valuable, but still a scoring unit to force him to hunt me down with some striking force. I think it's between 3 Anointed, Great Weapon or Paired Weapon. I think I would have put the Paired Weapon guys to avoid him getting rid of me from a panic check from shooting. And also the Paired Weapon guys, yeah, they are less relevant in the fight against a flying character. And they still are a possible threat against Medusa in a 1-1 combat where I could get the charge off. I still have a small chance, yeah, not so small, but I think it's like should be between 30-40% chance of possibly sticking or winning the combat against the Medusas. It's still not too bad if I get the charge off. So I like the idea of having something like he did here just to occupy me, and even if the Medusa do 14, get the charge, kill me, then turn 4 they reform. You know what I mean? It's likely that they don't do anything else from the rest of the game, and I think that's key. The fact that I can occupy some of the resources is also likely to bring a Pegasus to just secure that combat, maybe even chaff me some turn. So it will definitely occupy a part of his list to deal with them, and that's something less that will be pushing towards my flank here. And by deploying more compact, I think I could have used more the impassable and the terrain to my advantage to basically make a small part of the map where he could attack me and really try to form as soon as possible a solid battle line, defending the secondary and getting into strong position, basically. So I think I could have done better in deployment and expose less my my menace, and maybe I get the giant for later, get less March check out of bubble, because that was also a huge risk from the Great Bull multiple time. March check, as you saw, I failed one key with giant and lost the giant because of that. Could have also possibly lose the bull at some point. So I think that was way too risky, what I tried to do. I think I need to close even more the battle and tell him, yeah, this is starting at 10-10. You can get them at some point, but I will push towards you, get some point from range damage, and get something close to 10 or 11, and I'm fine with that. So I think I could have done a better job. I think I opened the game slightly more by splitting on all the map like that. I think that was made his life way more easier than what it should have done, what it should have been. Anyway, guys, that was an interesting battle, a lot of learnings for me. I felt the list wasn't too bad, but still some things that I would have liked to change in the list. And yeah, I will definitely look to try some alternative from the list and try to get more practice with ID, because I still don't have the perfect recipe regarding the type of list that I like. But it's always a pleasure, and it was definitely a challenging game and very interesting to play with a lot of learnings for me, so that was great. Thanks a lot, guys, for watching this battle report. I hope you liked it, and talk to you soon on other battle report.